welcome back to your favorite fundamentals of college math class. So we're going to talk about annual percentage yield, which is the actual percent of quantity increases in 1 year. So like for example, let's say we had $1,000 at 10%. If it compounded only once, 10% of 1,000 is $100. So you just end up with $1,100, right? Well, if it compounded semi-annually, twice a year, right, it gave you a little bit of interest at the 6-month mark and then a little bit of interest at the end of the year, you'd have a little more than $1,100. If you compounded quarterly, 4 times a year, you'd have a little more than the semi-annually. If you did it monthly, see how it keeps going up, or even if you did it daily, you'd have the most of those scenarios, right? A little bit of interest each day type of deal. So if you were to compute, and you notice this 1105, right? You've earned $105.16 in interest. Well, what's $105.16 out of the original 1,000? That's at 10.516% annually. Right? It's the same as if they paid you 10.516% annually. Not 10%, it's more than 10% when you're doing more compoundings than once a year. That's referred to as the annual percentage yield, the APY. Okay, the annual percentage yield. If it's for a loan, they call that APR, the annual percentage rate, is what that is referring to. But for like a savings account or something, that's APY. So how do you do it with a formula? Well, you have your starting balance, which is our compound interest formula, subtract the original amount P, and divide it all by the original amount P. And that'll end up working out, simplifying, to give us that APY formula. Now we're going to have to convert this. It'll be a decimal, so we'll have to convert it to a percent at the very end. And let's go ahead and use that. Bank A offers an account paying 1.2% compounded quarterly. Let's do Bank A, and we're going to compare it to Bank B. Who's the better APY, right? The annual percentage yield is how you can compare these two. So the APY equals 1 plus R over N to the N minus 1. So let's do it for this first bank. Bank A is 1.2%, so 1 plus 1.2%, so 0.012. It's compounding quarterly, N is 4. 0.012 divided by 4 is 0.003. So 1 plus 0.003 is 1.003 to the fourth. And we take that to the fourth and minus 1, and we end up with 0.012054181. So our APY, so this is like an annual 1.2054%. That's its annual percentage yield. Right? Now let's do Bank B. And let's see which is the better deal. Bank B, 1.1%, so a little bit less. So 0.011 is our interest rate, but it's compounded monthly. Compoundings are more often, not quarterly. So 0.011 divided by 12 plus 1 will give us a 1.00916 repeated to the 12th minus 1 gives us 0.011055681. So our APY, 1.1056%. So who's the better deal? I'm going to take the higher annual percentage yield on these savings accounts. That's the better annual rate. This would be a great problem to make a U-try problem on this one if you want to pause that video. So we've got, let's figure out the APY for this first one. it's an account. So I go ahead and write my APY formula, and then I plug it in. So my APY would be, it's at 4%, 0.04, compound daily. There's 365 days in a year. 365 minus 1. So this will end up being 1. So it looks like our APY here is 4.081%. To B now, 4%, but we're compounded monthly. 4%, but this time monthly, so N is 12. Convert that, 4.074%. There's our APY on the second one. And finally, how does this compare to the third one, where it's compounded annually, just once a year? Well, once a year is what the APY is, right? So it is the same, 4%, right? Compounded annual. That's what the APY definition is. Well, thanks so much for watching 6.3 on annual percentage yield. See you next time.